Medium Isaiah Motozula more or less the 7 dispensations. Now come on, you war the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9 la. More you had last week la. More nyamene termine ye puzzle. You make it pause. Come on, you have a video. Never give video and then you can be a won't make a pause. Après, about to nyamene okure the grace mo nyamene leleti. Mo Bible say for God so loved the world. Mutu ma idoba ni yewudi e yangu an leti. Ye puzzle. Ungroke about to azre na oma mo iboba kaisesola bazechi. Mutu okay 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9. Verse 24 to 27. More Ikela, okay, Yeluma ye 49 years plus 434. Me have 7 weeks plus 62 weeks. 69th week, more a pausola. Zahani ala sasa yako. You had in Kosovo to my bubble, or down when started the 7 dispensations. More you had in a borobola. You had in a borobo, the 7 dispensations in it. Si near nous, more babon kuso thing, more or startela, ya fake man innocent, and not innocence. More ye when we war Genesis chapter 1 to chapter 3. I can create Adam and Eve. Now, dispensation eka, would you can no come Adam on Eve, Yamre Borbe Gary to the Yenu. La. On Marbe, Ijoke Morangwan, Ijoke salvation gospel of this dispensation. Mukroke, do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But dibakama no more only knowledge of good and evil. But not dife. We see in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Nyakenga, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. 17, Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, and Genesis chapter 3, 22 to 24. Now, a shame will quote Yanzi more. Milene, Beya Anzon Sibe, Adam and Eve Anzon Sibela. The end came to them. And we learn a lot about Unzo. Now, you'll be really told you. Now, on money. The Obe garden of Edinenu, not of Babu Vindere, not very umabove Sarafin, or my business are on Grabo Mulumabioko. But the Nua, yeah, dispensation be a commodus with no Vinderia, but Adam and Eve be Vindela, but war down, which the Ackah does with dispensation of under conscience, and conscience. More even we war Genesis chapter 4 to Genesis chapter 8. Mukleke Cain and Abel, Enoch, on Methuselah. Now, a can no con, a Radenoco Val Marbe. Come on, but the Kramanula. Now, on Marbe, one, educate salvation gospel or dispensations are in more conscience dispensation. Also, do good and do not do evil. Or love what is good and hate what is evil. The Nua, Yangoboy, Etanungomiala. Now, this dispensation no coraria yuri. This dispensation no coraria yuri. Now, yuri nu. You may hear dispensation ka is a dispensation be a commodity sana yaga. If man in authority over the earth. Human government. Human government. Human government more dispensation of human government la. Matters in Sala. Bible clear ke. Na anson sibe don ezagare. Salvation gospel more dispensation come more believe God and build an Ackah. Miri me ben ye nyamre bantunu etanu gomi ala ya ne bre ya. And Yanua, Genesis chapter 9 to Genesis chapter 11. Noah, Shem, on Nimrod. Na banzuro nyamene. Na yɛn Genesis chapter 9 verse 1 2. Genesis chapter 11 verse 1 to 4. Genesis chapter 11 verse 5 to 8. Omo ekoso tu woke. Salvation gospel mo ben Israel. So Genesis chapter 6 nyamene mane Noah bobole akene. Na ovar bu ti owuranu na menu mo lo akejo ke na hire la ban va mo to ke Noah oye omemi nyansa ye be mamale insan be ye menu mo che ye nyamre va bu wuranu mo ti be vindela. Then another dispensation on that promise. Dispensation on that promise. Mo ti menza ala na ke tani ya ke bre ya ani okon Moti oyedede la. Ane ye bozore. Moti düzde bir ye ezriya. Yamene destruction bulegari mo omane. Confusion of Babel. Gari. Na ani don renua. C'était très bon. Mutisa Noah you got fourth dispensation. That's the dispensation on the promise. Exodus chapter 12 and Acts chapter 1. Genesis chapter 12 to Exodus chapter 11. The dispensation of promise. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, only Joseph. And that promise in it. Now, come on, dispensation, fourth warning, third warning. Merunumo bevunuala out of the dispersed of descendants of the builders of Babel. Babel, so merunumo bevunuala, Noah, abozwa mamo, mo be yede be Babel, mo ansos be gale, mo nyamle destroy, de ko banie no mo malanie don vinuala be descendants mo ko so ti. Mo begala. Namene onial be nuwa dede eza of varia unvozele orale kama ye ise ye be nwi wo Genesis chapter 12 to Exodus chapter 11 la. Modano ko salvation gospel mo wakela. Ye maleke. Believe God's promise. Now God promised Abraham, God promised Isaac, God promised Joseph, not a promise, God promised Jacob, na a promise Joseph in Noko. Ashianunu, come on, I'm going to buy a yardene. Or buy a yardene. Na of valley, the Egypt, Kebefrey, Abraham ko obozwa ma ba ho akra zunlunu la muti angba no ko ba ho akra zunlunu wo Egypt manu muti se ni Genesis chapter 12 verse 1 to 3, Genesis chapter 13 verse 14 to 7, Genesis chapter 15 verse 1, Genesis chapter 26 verse 3, Genesis chapter 28 verse 12 to 13, Makiyaga Exodus chapter 1 verse 13 to 14. God's promise, believe God's promise. I call it dispensation, salvation gospel for dispensation of on the promise. Inti, mene na yere de mo, akibe nye ban dunu ala. O dano ko de dispensation on the promise en gari yere. Namo o renu ala leke. Dispensation of law. More the fifth dispensation. Exodus chapter 12, Acts chapter 1, which is the of Moses, judges, the kings, and the prophets. Na Noah is a nyamre mare, slamo on ne ayin lazu biala guane. Again, the grace of God came to the help of helpless man and redeemed the chosen people out of the hand of the oppressor, that is the Egyptians, in the wilderness of Sinai. He promised them the covenant of law. muti Eka come promise like this the dispensation of law, the salvation gospel more or care or dispensation general obey God and keep his commandments. Say near Bible nenua obey God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. Muti bemayani ake miri nizebe nuzo. Muti Exodus chapter 19 verse 5. Also now, if you indeed obey my voice and keep my commandments, you shall be a special treasure to me above all the people, for all the earth is mine. Still now, the need. Hey, nake yaroboro. Nua, ya nyamene is a zero dispensation for Framo or Bukere. Okay. Come on, you muni Daniel 17 years nenu. Ke 69 e pause la. Ke dan ko nyamene e pause. Nake eva grace nega moti 61 dispensation of grace. Ima kakaka ya wo nuara. Mo class ya wuru no ri ya ngwane la. Dispensation of grace, the church age. Acts chapter 2 and Revelation chapter 3. Yakinga chapter 3 de yeke June 19 ye bo wumo ko tun wake. Come on, ye prepare personality. Ni en prepare ye bo butini ala. Motisa yakinga John chapter 6 verse 47. Sa yakinga John chapter 10 verse 27 to 28. John chapter 5 verse 24. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 8 to 9. Now, economical salvation gospel more dispensation of grace more and then now ya dinua more ya rapture ya ba ya pezola. Salvation grace in gospel okay. Confess Jesus as the Lord and believe in his resurrection. Romans chapter 10 verse 9. That if you confess with your mouth that the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him up from dead, you will be saved. Eka mirine. Kaka miya wuru miya biza ya wonke aso dispensation of grace ika. Mirine be real dunwa. Na dispensation of grace ika debi oba peso ye ma le rapture. Na sa kaka mo ye tinde ye na miya di ye na la ye rapture be zia. Ke nyamre ba yi ya so le no mo le ye da ye la. Asana ye yamaka na ejuzura yanze mutejema dami union dami ye ju the last dispensation more all kingdom dispensation, the dispensation man under the personal reign of Christ. Okay, the kingdom age, Revelation chapter 20 verse 1 to 6. Eka asana mo eka ke zira ye be jumre nkwa ke ye bobozre Christ bara ya sonene evlun su anzi ye oni ya bara zrazo yimu ye evreka Revelation chapter 20 verse 1 to 6. Mutikaka dispensation of grace ka me wonu ala ye de otasenio muti ya chance me wonu ala ka be me yenu. Last week ne otabare nyamre pause 69 mo ole dispensation of grace ne oni otibe yi azorala to me di madam yenu. After the dispensation of grace, nous on dit que y a bezia. Nous on dit bien y a baga. Tu y a un autre année en vacances. Mo oba yezira. Y a pas droit.